Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. It's Coram and Carson here with a look at the action in today's session, Friday, July 21st, as well as a look at how the week unfolded and a preview of what investors should expect for next week and how to be prepared. So, a lot to get to today, Ed. What stocks are we going to highlight?
Going to take a look at three Dow stocks that are reporting next week: Microsoft, Boeing, and Visa.
We'll get to those three stocks, but first let's take a look at the major indexes. It was a mildly mixed day on Friday with the Dow just ever so slightly in positive territory by the end of the session. Same for the S&P 500. On the downside, the Nasdaq down some 0.2%, the Russell down 0.3%. So we are seeing a pullback in progress, Ed. But overall, if you take that step back, it still feels like this market rally is strong.
Yeah, I mean, the NASDAQ is only coming down to the 10-day line, still above the 14,000 level. It was barely down for the week, while the S&P was up modestly and the Dow was up solidly, and riding a 10-day win streak. So it's not a broad pullback yet. I mean, it's a pullback maybe in growth stocks. And a lot of them had big gains heading into the week. They're all basically at 15-month highs. So yeah, the market rally still looks pretty strong. Now, could the market pull back some more? Sure, on the growth stocks, which wouldn't be the worst thing, because a lot of stocks look extended. A lot of other stocks look like they may need a few days or weeks to set up again. So but I think that just stepping back, yeah, the market is still looking healthy. A lot of broad strength in the past few weeks. So and much of the market was up this week. Yeah, there some of the growth names, gave up a lot of weekly gains, but that's about the worst that really happened.
And a reason to take a look at three stocks on the Dow is it was a notable week for the blue chip index. Let's take a look at a couple of other market gauges that we like to take a look at. First of all, breadth. So here's a look at QQQ down. Well, let's look at the weekly actually. So 0.9% on the week. QQEW equal weight up 0.9% this week. So the mega cap techs bearing the weight of the selling this week, it seemed.
Yeah, there's a few names like Tesla and Netflix, and even they weren't terrible. I mean, okay, Tesla had a pretty bad week. All right, it's like a Netflix, but I
Big
mean, it's like,
outside week, downside
yeah,
reversals, heavy volume. So
yeah, there was that, and Netflix gave up. It ended up having a down week as well, and so there's a few names out there, ASML, but it's amazing. Even among the big cap tech index was still up, so still pretty impressive. I mean, at least equal weight, so still
right.
pretty impressive.
Yeah. Let's also take a look at SPY versus RSP. SPY up almost 0.7% on the week. RSP up 1.4%. So again, looking at all these different signals showing that underlying overarching market health. Let's take a look at 0TNX. This is the 10-year treasury yield. Not a whole lot of movement this week and some support at a key level.
Yeah, there were some big daily swings, but ultimately didn't move a whole lot. That's part of the reason why the NASDAQ probably it was rallying into this week and then gave up some gains. But yeah, not a whole lot of ultimately a lot of movement.
Okay, let's take a look at some sector and thematic ETFs. Here's SMH, which tracks the chips, down almost 2% on the week, but still above that key 10-week moving average, Ed. We also have IGV basically flat on the week, giving up some intra-week gains. It too is nicely above the 10-week moving average still. What about travel? Here's a look at Jets, which tracks the airlines, up this week after forming a 3 weeks tight, a gain of 2% on the week. XLV Healthcare, a nice week for this sector at up 3.5%.
Yeah, a lot of things are finally moving together. Some drug names moved up, health insurers are bouncing back, some med tech names came up. So yeah, this suddenly, it's like, oh, that's that, because that was really struggling for quite a while. Maybe that's a sign that the speculative names are going to cool off, or maybe it's just that defensive growth will participate too.
Yeah. two more ETFs to look at. XLI, industrials marching higher, up almost 0.9% this week. And XLF, how did financials fare? Pretty good, I'd say, Ed. XLF up 2.9% this week.
Yeah, so a lot of the weaker areas of the market have definitely improved quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. So really nice to see.
That they have. Moving on, let's take a look at Microsoft, this trio of Dow stocks with earnings on tap. So here's a look at MSFT. Had some big news earlier in the week, Ed. It did retrace a lot of that, but it's still right around the 21-day line.
Yeah, so maybe somebody could have thought, well, I can do an aggressive entry here, but like that sort of 4 weeks consolidation. But there was a lot of the early buys or aggressive buys just didn't work out because the market pulled back. But this may be the most important earnings report next week, not so much because it's an opportunity to buy, but this is in cloud computing, and of course, it is one of the leaders in AI. So on a whole slew of areas, what it has to say about with its guidance about what it's spending on, that's all going to be very important, I think, to a huge number of sectors in the market. And it also comes ahead of Google and Meta, which will have similar things to say, but like this will kick it off.
Right.
And so you could imagine a whole raft of stocks moving on what Microsoft has to say, on Tuesday night.
hmm A very well received earnings report last quarter. We'll have to see if it can make a repeat and what that interpretation is like. If it is positive, or what sort of moves we can expect to see in the market next week, but we'll be ready for anything. Let's also take a look at Boeing, ticker BA. It's had a couple of pullbacks to right around the 50-day line as it consolidates. And it's been tightening up relative to the prior base, Ed. So if we do see a nice earnings report from Boeing, I mean, it's about 5% below a potential traditional entry, or maybe traders could use a bounce off of the moving averages if they wanted exposure to this area.
Yeah, and so this will be important. A lot of industrials have already moved out, so this is not the leader anymore. It was
Right.
earlier in the year, not as much. It's come down quite a bit in this regard, but still there's a lot of positives. It's probably going to finally start swinging to a profit, maybe not this quarter, but very soon. That's what analysts are expecting. So that'll be nice to see. It has been trading, as you say, pretty tightly on a weekly. I'll also note that GE and Raytheon will be reporting the day before. So the little bit of preview that could give,
Mm,
especially GE, which supplies a lot of engines to Boeing, so that might be able to provide a little preview on
right.
on Boeing's results. So definitely some ones to watch here.
Let's also take a look at Visa, ticker V, hanging around in a buy zone after a breakout a couple of weeks ago. Looks like a pretty orderly, mild pullback, still holding above the 21-day line. And this is, kind of part of that travel related theme, consumer spending. Your thoughts on Visa, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, this has sort of consumer spending is pretty resilient, and travel is moving up, and it gets a lot of money on overseas cross-border fees. So on those transactions, that's where makes a lot of its sort of extra money. And so Visa and Mastercard, which reports later in the week, they're both in buy zones. So definitely ones to watch. I suppose if it breaks above that little trend line that you've got, that could provide another opportunity to add or start a position if you were wary of doing it earlier. It just seems like an area, again, if these are also stocks that you're looking at that aren't, Boeing and Visa and some of these names are not quite in that tech space. So if growth stocks have a pullback, some of these other names might be a little safer if you want to take on new positions.
All right, thanks, Ed. Okay, as we pivot our attention to next week, here's a couple of stocks to watch, but there's a lot of others, right, Ed? So, what should traders be doing to prepare for the week ahead?
Probably it's not necessarily a great time to be adding exposure, but you should be preparing, paying it. Look at your portfolio. Which ones would you want to maybe think about taking profits on, either partially, or which ones you want to hold on to, especially with earnings season coming through. And it's not just the earnings reports for your holdings, but will Microsoft or ServiceNow or Visa or Boeing, are those going to influence your portfolio, a good chance. So be aware of those things. And but you still want to keep working on your watch list. While I don't feel like there's a lot of setups right now, and it's also not far. There's a lot of stocks that would just take a day or two or a week or two, and we'd suddenly have a flurry of buying opportunities once again. So you really want to keep building your watch list over this weekend, because there's going to be a lot of news this coming week. I didn't even mention the Federal Reserve has a meeting. They're likely to raise rates, and the rate hike outlook, that'll be really important Wednesday night.
Yeah, geez. I've also got that.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things going on. It's like, oh yeah, the Fed meeting. So it's just one of those weeks that you really have to be paying attention to and game plan things out. If this happens, this happens. What are you going to do with your stocks?
Love that. I'm all about that. That if this, then kind of stuff. Good stuff, Ed. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We hope you join us Monday morning on ibdliveinvestors.com/IBD Live for all those details. And of course, we'll see you back after the close on Monday as we start to see those earnings reports roll in. Hope everyone has a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week.